Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing great. So in today's video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to design a very basic business process, right, within Sterling Integrator. Now, when I talk about any business process, right, when you're working in any project, right, typically you get a requirement of like how what exactly has to be done, right? Once, like, let's say you receive a file from your external trading partner, what needs to be done after the file is received, and then where do you need to send, right? So you get a bunch of requirements. Now, for any process, right, like let's say even within your laptop, let's say you have to play a song, an audio song, what do? You take multiple steps, right, to play the song. Like you open the laptop, you log in, you find the file, and then you click on it. You use, like, maybe open with a music player or an audio player, right, and then you play it. So you're actually executing multiple steps to achieve a overall objective, right? So similarly, in Sterling Integrator, when you are designing a business process, you need to understand each and every business requirement is achieved by doing small tasks, right? Now, when I talk about Sterling Integrator, you have to also think through those lines, and different kind of services and adapters are available to do those multi, like, small steps, right, and then you tie them together one after another and be able to then create a business process that will help you to achieve the business requirement, right? So it cannot do like in one step you do all the things, right? So you have to divide into individual small steps, right, and then achieve the whatever you need to do. So let me quickly share my screen. So this is my Sterling integrator. I have logged in. I have clicked on, like, for the folks who are very new to business process development, typically they start using the graphical process modeler, which is a Eclipse based tool, and the UI looks like this. When you click on that, run graphical process modeler. Now, every process, as I mentioned in one of my previous video, you have to have start and end, and then sequence start and sequence end, because any business process, right, are actually a combination of different steps, right, and all are executing sequentially, right? So that's why those are the mandatory things that you need to bring to your palette, and then you add additional services and adapters within that, and then connect them, configure the parameters for each of those services or adapters, and then save it, and then use that, okay, deploy that business process within your Sterling integrator, and then execute it, right, for your unit testing and all that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's say, click on a new business process, right, and then as I mentioned, I'm going to let's see, stencil, and then ppml. I'm going to drag a start, I'm going to drag a end. And if you have only one step, right, let's say one single assign service, you can still use start and end and an assign service, because it's just one step, so you don't need a sequence start and a sequence end. But typically, right, you don't create a business process with just one service, and most of the time it is always 99.99% a group of services and adapters. So always, that's the reason, okay, we mentioned, like, by default you always use a sequence start and a sequence end. So for any business process, do remember these are the four, like, BPML basic stencils that you need to bring to the business process modeler, connect them. And then, let's say, as I mentioned, I'm going to do a very simple service, like simple business process, just to show you, right, today. So I'm going to do a assign service, which is a very basic one, right? And then I'm going to connect it. So I'm going to use one assign statement for the first exercise, and then I'm going to double click on it. When I double click on any service adapters on the business process modeler, it actually gives a bunch of, like, parameters, okay, on the bottom. Like, if you see property editor assign, so there are like four parameters which you can configure. Now, for our exercise, what I'm going to do is I'm going to initialize variable, right? Here, let's say the variable name is foo, okay, and I'm going to and I'm mentioning it in the to statement, and then in the constant I'm going to assign, let's say, 50, right, to the foo element, right? It's a variable that I'm going to assign. Now once I'm done with it, okay, I'm going to, the next step is you go to file and then click on save as. It says, it always asks validate on save, so that business process model automatically validates whether all the configurations are proper, the mandatory parameters are set, and all that, right? So I'm going to do validate on save. And once it's validates, like if the validation fails, it will give you an error right over here. But in this case, okay, it has been validated. Now let's say hello world. I give a name hello world, and then the extension in which the file is saved is hello world.bp. So I'm going to click on save. If you see, the validation is successful. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to uh, if you see over here, I can click on view and then source, and I can just copy this code. There's a couple of methods of how you can deploy it. Okay, so I'll show you both of them. So once you have created your business process, come back to your Sterling integrator, click on this, go next to the create process definition, and then this is how you actually deploy. Like once you have created the business process, you come back to this and then you name, like let's say hello world. It can be any other name, okay, it doesn't have to be the name that you have saved the file with. And then there's a couple of methods like check in business process created by the graphical modeling tool. You can do that, or you can use business process text editor. If I do check in business process created by graphical modeling tool, right, it says the process name is already in use. Okay, so there's already a process over here. So with that name, so let me say test ep, right? Let's do this, and then click on next, and it says browse the file name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, and then I think I saved it in my document. This is the hello world. It's going to automatically change the name of the hello world to test bp, and let's say initial version v1, and then I'm going to click next. And then these are like bunch of settings in the at the process level that we can define, persistence level, document storage, the queue that you want to set this business process to run, and all that. And we'll come to all those details slowly, that as you progress through the business process modeling training and how to develop business process and all that. I'm going to keep everything default. I'm going to click next. I'm going to keep default here. I'm not going to set any deadline right now. Purge related information, I'm going to keep as is. And then if you see, there's a button that automatically gets checked in. If it is not, just do make sure, like if you want to use it, always have this check, like which mentioned that this business process is eligible for execution. So enable business process, and then I'm going to click finish, right? If you see, okay, once this is done, right, the update is in progress, the deployment is completed. If you see, it says completed. Now what I'm gonna do is, like if I want to test it, right, I'm gonna search with that name text, and then let's say, and if you see, there is a test pp which I've already deployed, right? And if I open it, it should be that same. Like if you see, there's a process name which is test pp, sequence start, sequence end, and then there's a assign statement where I'm assigning 50 as the value to the foo element, right? That's the test pp. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to execution manager, right? And then if you see, okay, here there's a button called execute, and then I'm going to click on the execute, right? And I'm just going to run it, right? Click on go. So within a fraction of seconds, the execution is completed. If you see, both the steps are successful, the first step and then which I executed, and then assign statement. If I click on the instance data, which is the process data, right here, it's going to open another window, and in it, if you see, as I mentioned, process data is a metadata of the business process, right, at execution level, where all the runtime information is stored in the process data, which is used for the following services, right? So you store those information for the next service to be able to access their process data. It looks like a XML format, right, which you see. And then if you see, as I mentioned, I have mentioned like 50 to the variable foo, right? I can add additional steps, right? I can add additional assign statements. Like, let's say if I want to do another quick round of uh, check, let's see, view graph. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove this. Okay, I'm gonna bring another assign statement for our next assignment. I'm gonna connect these two. So there are two assign statements now. The first one is assigning 50 to foo. Let's say I need, for my business process, I need another variable, and let's say it is bar, and then I'm going to assign the value as 100 for my business process needs, right? I'm going to do the same thing, right? I'm going to save. So it says validate on save. I'm going to view source. So if you see, there are like two assign statements, foo and bar. I'm going to copy that, come back to my business process, go to return, and there is a source manager right next to you. So how do you deploy the next version? You can do this way. Go to source manager, right? There is an option called check in and updated definition for this business process, right? So I'll click on go over here. It's going to log this existing business process so that no one is able to now do any changes while I'm doing any changes. And then okay, check in, you do not own a lock on the file. Okay, so let's do it. Okay, let's check our edit. I'm gonna do the edit button. Let's do that first. Okay, and then let's see the description. So assign 100 to bar V2 version, right? Give some proper naming, like proper description so that you understand what this process. Okay, and then like I can do validate over here. It says validation successful. I can just click next, and then I can go directly to save button as well. It will go to the last page, right? And then I'm going to click finish, right? Once that is done, so my next version V2 is deployed. I can go return. So typically, if you see, this is the default version. That's why if you see a cross sign on the first V1 version, but I want to ensure, like, if you want to change the default version to the latest, okay, you can do that as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to the execution. I'm going to select this. So whenever next time, like let's say you're calling your test BB from another parent process, right, it always is going to take the V2 version. If you want to change it to previous version, this is how like you do the you toggle between different versions based on what kind of testing and development that you're doing, right? So you can do all those kind of things. So you still manage all the versions over here. This is the version management that is there within the Sterling integrator. So now I'm gonna click on the execute button next to the V2 version just to test it out, and I'm gonna just click go. Okay, and within a fraction of seconds, both, like if you see step 1 and step 2, there are two assigned statements that got executed. So if I click on the first process data after the first assigned service, it will only have foo as a variable and 50 assigned to it value. And then if I go to the next, it's going to show me both the variable foo and bar with 50 and 100. That's what we try to do using the business process modeling, right? So I hope this was helpful, right, to all of you to just for just getting started to create business process, how to think through, right? And I'm going to go into more complex. Like I've seen some comments saying that, okay, sir, why don't you like show us like how to create a end-to-end EDI flow, right? How to create a map, right? And then use that map within the business process and do some conversions and all that. So we're going to like build up on this basic foundation of how you actually get started, right? So with that, I'm gonna like finish today's session. I hope it was useful to you. Feel free to give me comments, feel free to, and also like do reach out, right, if you're looking for the map editor executable, right? I'm happy to share for so that you can do some local testing if needed. But with that, I will see you next week, right, with some more additional topics on business process and maps as well. And happy developing solutions, right, like EDI maps and business process on Sterling Integrator. Thank you everyone, and I'm gonna with that stop my sharing and I'm gonna end this session.